Yeah, my presentation is in a bit different way. I also would like to give more an overview. You know, when the introduction of mobile computing came in, there was a question: what's the difference between a PC and internet and other running components, computers? One of the key differences was that we had a lot of sensors, especially like, for instance, GPS built in your mobile phone. And so navigation was one of the key elements from the very beginning, which was, some people even said 30% of a lot of applications using spatial information. So navigation as an application was an important thing, and when we see the development, it was that from the very beginning, even APA level 1, there was already an Android.location package. So the location part was quite interesting, the positioning, and also the other way was how to display things. And as you know, Google was on the very beginning where they introduced also the Google Maps, which made it much more easier, of course, to use it. They made really a good job, and I would like to thank the Google guys introducing also these both components into this mobile, because this brought a lot of extra values. I even checked about 2 years ago, it was in the DroidCon in the Cosmos, I had another talk with a security guy, so that's why the talk just before could be also interesting. I checked with another security guy, and we had this very quick run, and we checked how many manifest files, or in how many manifest files of a large or a very large store, the request for positioning, coarse-grained, fine-grained was done, and was about 30%. 30% of apps used positioning, or wanted to use it. In the meantime, there were some developments, and as you can see, there was the development of, for instance, the version 2, the Google Mobile Maps 2, but in the last few years, 4 years, maybe 3 years more, there was also a spread into more different data stacks. So you got different data. For instance, OpenStreetMap data was much more available now, but also other players, as you know from here, Berlin, here, Nokia, also came into that game. We have also the situation that we start to use more and more also operations on spatial data, not just displaying the result. So with Google Maps, you can very good display a point, polygon, so as a result. But if you would like to detect, for instance, if there are some buildings on the side, you cannot get on the data level. They protect this. They don't like that. There are good reasons why to do it. It's not a question why. It's more an idea to give an overview. And what we did at our university was that last year we did a certain report together, and we looked at different APIs, and I would like to share this also with some comments with you. If you would like to start to do some of these things, you may have a look at some alternatives, which of course you need at the very end, plus and minus what you need to judge on your own project. So the students report was, of course, we had the Google Mobile Maps. I think that most of you will even know it quite good. By the way, we have also keys there. The Google Play service takes some time to manage this, but it's a way. Then I would like to talk about Grasshopper, here, Nokia, Leaflet, NeuroTech, Mapbox, MapForge, OSM Droid, and Scobler. And all of these APIs offer quite a lot of mapping or other facilities and capabilities, but have their plus and minus things. So that's why we thought we'd take a little report, that's a 20 minutes report for you, and give you an overview about these components you can use. So as we know, Google Maps is very heavily used. I have also asked a few times, it's really a component which is one of the top most used components at all. We know that it was established very early, as we said, and we do have this Google Play service which we need to manage, because a lot of data which is shown there is not necessarily owned by Google itself. So we have a mechanism which works, Second point is we have pretty good visualization, as we know, but we don't have any spatial operators. So what is a spatial operator? If you would like to have a building, for instance, and you would like to check if you can look in one direction, is there a building? And you would like to check, for instance, for augmented reality, is this a free side you can see, or is there a building between? So these are points where suddenly it is important to detect if there is something inside. So this is not possible. There is no access on feature, what we call feature level. You cannot select them. You cannot, of course, edit or something, these things. It is more or less good to see, good to visualize, which is for many, many cases a good reason, and for many applications just enough. So it's still a good, very good solution. But it's not good if you like to go into more deeper things. So these are some more details. It's a bit difficult to see. This is something you can maybe see later on also if you're more interested in these things. So we get a comparison. Second point I would like to introduce is Grasshopper. Did anybody of you hear about Grasshopper maybe already? 1, 2. It's quite fast. It's a component, it's an open source component, which is a routing component. It doesn't have an own mapping. You can use it, for instance, together with Google Maps, but if you use anyway Google Maps, so you got routing it built inside. But if you would like to do routing for agriculture, maybe Google would be not interested in that because they are more in the mainstream. So Grasshopper is a very, very fast component which is very good in routing, and it's based on OpenStreetMap data. So if you're working with OpenStreetMap data, if you're interested in a fast component, this is something which appeared last year. We had it in the WordCamp discussion. And there are also some applications. Maybe I've seen Rome to Rio. This is one of the application where you can do travel agency, ticketing by flight, by bus, by train. And it's very fast, and it's the routing component, it is Grasshopper. It's designed by some people from Nuremberg, also a bit based in Berlin. Really, really fast. So what you see here on this display is a combination with NeuroTech, which I will show later on. But the component Grasshopper is the routing engine. The routing engine can be run on the server or on server side, but also on the Android. So offline routing is possible. As you know, there are many, many cases where you can say it's enough, or today's smartphones do have enough capacity to store whole Germany, for instance. So if you would like to do routing on your phone, because maybe also the internet connection is not very good, you can do it together with a mapping later on your phone. It's still a bit in development, still a bit young, but really fast. Details. Another one is what we examined was a bit difficult. It was even a bit difficult, let's say, to write it. That's why I was not sure how to write it at the very end. I would like to tell it more. You know, here is a quite large player in the overall market. It's based in Berlin, so not far away, has about 7,000 people. And the biggest customer area is more the automotive industry. So they struggle a bit in between automotive, maybe there could be part of automotive in the future, we will say, or not. But also they started to bring in the here data as mapping and on the website, or let's say on the internet platform. But also they introduced now an app or an APK on the mobile market. You may know the app, which is already out of the beta, and it's quite good in that sense, especially if you would like to have offline data, was a classic advantage. But the API, so if you would like to reuse it in your part, was a bit difficult to get. At the very end, even we had 3 tries to get an access to the API. We did not really manage it to get keys and access to the API itself. So we are not really able to have a real test on it. Nevertheless, I think it's an alternative. You may have to watch it if you're in different spheres. It's very comprehensive also with Google. It's vector data, of course. And it seems to be, because the app itself is already on the market, that it could be that it will be available quite soon. Maybe also more or less, may depends on the realm. So there are some of these kind of details. There is another component, maybe Leaflet. Did anybody heard about Leaflet? Oh, a lot of people already. So I would guess even 20%. So if 30% or 30% of the apps using spatial data, Leaflet is not really a native Android application. It is more JavaScript-based component which runs in browsers. So it's for those applications, for instance, where you would like to install an app intentionally because you may use it from time to time only. And it was built for mobile usage, so all the gestures which are on the mobile, which are common on the mobile, can be supported. It's very lightweighted, also important if you would like to download the logics, it's quite a good possible. It supports picture data and also vector data, like the GeoJSON format, for instance, and has a lot of plugins. So this is something where if you like to have a solution which is, let's say, mobile compatible, but it's still something which runs on the web for applications where you potentially intentionally don't want to have a downloaded app, for instance. By the way, this screenshot, what you see here, is an activity from the Open Railway Map community. You may have heard about OpenStreetMap. I guess most of you know it. In the last 1 to 3 years, it goes more into directions. And for instance, the railway people are guys which are very interested in the details and the specific details. And they made a worldwide map. And if you would like to see the train or the station in Tokyo, have a look at this, you will find this. So this is very in detailed from the data source. Also there's a more and more data source available on this OpenStreetMap level. So how to get this data together? This is something that is Nutitech. This is a company from Estonia. It's very, very active. I would say it's really one of the leading companies in this sphere. Why? It offers visualization, of course, I would say, but also a lot of spatial operators. It has really the full range of spatial data formats. It has an own NML format, which is a bit from the KML advanced for 3D buildings. You can do really GIS extensions like with vector data and other things like service WMS, web mapping services. A lot of 3D tools, 3D models, 3D cities. It's open source, so you can have a look inside, but it's run by a commercial model. So this is something which is really interesting to look at if you would like to have very enhanced, or if you have high requirements for very enhanced solutions or apps which needs more. This is something which you really should look inside. Then it's another company, it's Mapbox also. They started much more in the internet area. They started also with mobile. It's still officially not available until today. I just looked today. Nevertheless, there were a lot of previews available. We could see them also. They were quite strong in cartographic views. So if you like to have a different map as the Google Maps style, sometimes you like it to have it intentionally, just to be different. Or also maybe there are really some deeper reasons. This could be something which could be also quite interesting. What you see here is the iOS version, which is already available. Who of you knows MapForge? Oh, really? It's quite interesting. It was started about 2005, I think, quite early. They started originally, so Thiele Mühlberg was one of them at the FU Berlin. And originally they thought to have a mapping which is based on OpenStreetMap. You see there's a lot of OpenStreetMap data available, but it was difficult, let's say, to display it. We will see also an alternative. And Thiele Mühlberg and the others from the FU Berlin, they wanted also to have it rendered. So you know there's a big difference today if you have just pics or you would say raster data, which is more or less rendered pics which were rendered on the server, or as you know today, especially with the zoom in and the zoom out, a local-based or on the mobile rendered version. And I think this was one of the first activities which were really successful also in that sense, that they brought OpenStreetMap on the Android phone, but in a way that it's also rendered on the device. It's often reused also in different components. If you see it, you may detect it. It has an own data format, which was at the very beginning developed as a very compact format. So if you would like to store whole Germany, for instance, you need to have maybe a more compact version, which was a very important key factor at the beginning, which is not so important anymore today. But so there's a specialized compact format where you can download the data, also done by, for instance, Bundesländer or national states in that sense. So the details for later. Then we had another one, it's OSM Droid, which was very early. It was also a component to bring OpenStreetMap on the phone, on the Android phone. But this one was a bit earlier and is also completely based on pictures. So if you don't have very high requirements, if you would like to have, for instance, offline data also, because you can store also the tiles on the phone. It's a quite lightweight solution. It's not really up to date anymore. I would think of, if you design today an app, I would expect or suggest that you do more a local rendered approach, because this is more or less a standard. Nevertheless, if you would like to have a quick solution, there's something you can still use. And I think even the Mapbox people at the beginning, I think they forked that somehow. Then there's another one component also from a startup, which was Berlin, from Scobler, which is now bought by Telenav. This is called Scout. It's a navigation system with routing. It has full commercial support, but it's based on OpenStreetMap data. You can also load external services like OGC services there, but you can also have offline data. And it was a bit difficult to describe, but I would like to say you have a quite good, let's say, alternative Android feeling. So if those of you who don't like to have Google Maps because of some good reasons, and you would like to have something similar, but OpenStreetMap based or something, and it's still commercially supported, it's a quite good alternative for that way. It's still quite active. More details. Nevertheless, we do have an activity here in Berlin where these discussions about spatial data, OpenStreetMap, mobile, indoor navigation will be discussed, and is running. It's a kind of WhereCamp is the name. We will have the next WhereCamp in November 26, so in about 6 months. We got a lot of people from the Beacon side. There was also a presentation today which was quite good. We have also startups like Delivery Hero are inside, but also the big ones like the boss on Google Maps will come also. So this is, let's say, a sphere. If you're more interested in these kind of, let's say, mobile navigation, mobile data parts, this is something you can have a look inside. The details could be also requested by an email. We do have a report, a written report, about 100 pages about these things, because there are a lot of things in detail. And if you would like to compare things, it's not really quite good in a presentation mode. We don't have it published really in that sense, because we needed to check all the maybe potential risky things. But if you're interested in this, you can get this directly. It's a report from 2014, so there will be changes, but it gives you an overview about the existing Geo APIs. And also there is a long, quite bright table where you can see all the differences in detail, but it's of course a bit difficult to display here. Nevertheless, so the idea was Google Maps are a very good alternative. It's for most cases maybe just enough. It's a good thing. There are activities where you would like to have specialized data, like the railway things, where you can say, okay, there you would like to have an access to the, for instance, OpenStreetMap world. Then you need to look for alternative. Of course, it's a bit hard to develop everything by your own. It's not a good idea to use or reuse components. It's a better idea. And this is something I would like to give you an overview if you got this question sooner or later in your environment. That was it.